Well, it may be a long weekend, but for many people across the prairies, there's little time to relax. We'll head to Regina in just a moment, but we begin in Manitoba, where officials are warning the spring melt could produce some of the worst flooding in years. So the race against the water is on. Katie Nicholson has the story.
For winter-weary Winnipeggers, this is a sweet sound and a sweet sight, melting snow. But for John Koshuk, it's his cue to start sandbagging.
And I'm a little worried it's going to flow back into the house.
With twice as much snow on the ground than normal, all that melting snow is a big concern. But it isn't the only one. The Red River is poised to hit the same levels as 2009.
There's 26 properties requiring sandbagging.
The city says it's all set. 85,000 sandbags sit in the depots to be planted across the flood zone like spring bulbs.
We had the ice jam here. It took out these trees like they were matchsticks.
James Matson lives in one of the potential flooding hotspots. He's not sweating it just yet.
As long as we don't get another 2 or 3 feet of snow or lots of rain in the meantime, we should be all right.
But there are big concerns just north of Winnipeg in St. Andrews, where in 2009 an ice jam heaved slabs of ice and torrents of water into people's homes. He may have a truck full of inflatable barriers.
This particular trailer has 75 tiger tubes on it.
But emergency coordinator Darcy Hardman is still expecting many sleepless nights by the river.
We have to watch and wait, and then we have to react.
But just like in Winnipeg, the Red River isn't the only flood threat.
Here's part of the problem. Across southern Manitoba, the ground is frozen to a depth of ½ meter to a meter.
So when all this melts, there will be nowhere for it to go. That's why an army of plows is out carving deep trenches through the snow, 320 kilometers of them, so the spring melt has somewhere to flow. Perhaps not the sweetest sound of spring, but one that should melt some rising flood fears. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And next door in Saskatchewan, they're also rushing to beat the big thaw. Bonnie Allen has more on what's being done there to minimize any spring melt misery.
The snow piles are high and only getting higher as people in Regina try to move it away from the foundations of their houses. It's not the way Donald Johnson and his son wanted to spend their long weekend.
If we'd known that we were going to get so much, we probably would have got a quicker start on it.
The job is too big for many. Some homeowners are hiring private contractors to do the shoveling.
We're getting calls all day. We can't even keep up.
Others are calling in the big guns. Regina has had record snowfall this year, and cold temperatures mean most of it is still sitting here.
And we got to get rid of all this stuff, but there's no place to put it.
The city of Regina closed its snow dump this past week because the ground was getting too soft for big trucks. The public outcry was immediate. Late Friday night, the dump was reopened.
We are experiencing the colder conditions going forward probably for the next week at least.
Something to be grateful for, strangely. It slows the melt and gives people time to prepare for possible flooding. The province unveiled some of its sandbagging equipment this past week, a show of strength to inspire people's confidence. However, cottage owners at this lake are taking matters into their own hands. They remember this from 2 years ago, a month-long state of emergency. So they've raised money to buy their own sandbag machine. It arrives on Tuesday, along with 250,000 sandbags.
We don't want to scare people into a point where it's panic. This is controlled management. It's emergency management at its finest.
The forecast shows temperatures below zero for most of the long weekend and into next week. All of this will melt. The question is when and how quickly. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Regina.